Yeah, how do we start? Okay, so um, I think it's something that everybody's kind of like really concerned about right now, whether they have already experienced it or they haven't yet, and they're worrying about the general state of the industry, right? So, being let go, being retrenched, right? Whether that is part of like a studio closure or part of a, how to say, like a downsizing of the company. I think it's like everywhere these days. Every day there's new news about some tech company, some
Wait, have
game
we started?
studio, some VFX studio. Yeah, yeah, we have started. That's fine.
Okay. All right.
We'll keep it easy. We leave it in, right? Um, Part of the new style. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, like I said, like every day, like you open LinkedIn, like it's like deja vu all over, and like, oh, why is this person now looking for a job? What's happening with this guy? Like, I thought he was on that project, and then it's really crazy. But I guess the main thing I wanted to talk about a little bit is kind of how, like, what's going on in your head when you get the news, when you kind of get a suspicious email from your boss, like completely out of the ordinary, and you think, hey, it's not time for a meeting. What is this? And then suddenly, I don't know, the head of HR is also on the call, or there's suddenly a all hands on deck meeting scheduled, and you wake up in the morning and you don't even know what's going on, and then you can suddenly kind of feel it coming, right? And then, well, the news hits really quickly, and then, well, in some cases you're let go like right away, and you have to just kind of stop working that minute, or there's going to be like a 1 month grace period, a 1 month notice where you're still supposed to kind of clean up and come into the office or whatever, um, depending on what kind of project you're on, right? But then, kind of, what does that to your head, right? That's really interesting, I think. um, I don't know. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, you know, I guess I have 20 plus years of working. Definitely have
Yeah.
experienced a bit of, basically being laid off or, yeah. I mean, retrenched is actually quite a. I don't think I've heard it being referred to as that,
Hmm.
but being laid off really, in my sense, and I think it can be quite devastating. I mean, I've had layoffs where it really hurt, uh, but hurt psychologically, mentally,
Mm.
because I actually really like that place. And,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't realize that your identity, a lot of your friendships, a lot of
Hmm.
the way of life, everything is tied to that place. And I think, it really, really made it difficult. But I think that the most recent, like I think you've gone through something
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
recently. Obviously, I actually think it would be really good to hear how are you feeling and how are you thinking.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah. I
remember the
mean,
call that you told me, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you would kind of think that after many years of freelancing, you kind of get used to that, like being on and off from projects, and it shouldn't really bother you, I guess, anymore. That's what I thought, at least. But yeah, once you kind of get into like, once you kind of not settle down, but like your mind is kind of in a different place, and you said like, okay, I'm gonna be with this company for a while, and I want to really be on the ground with them for a long time. And then, well, the news hits, right? So then nothing can really prepare you for that. Um, and I always kind of, I guess the general like freelance mindset would be that, oh yeah, okay, I'm just going to look for the next thing. I'm just going to like find a new job, and it's fine, and I knew that this one was going to be a temporary thing anyway. So you're kind of in a completely different headspace. But then when the retrench when sorry, the layoff call, or whatever you want to call it, happens, right? When you are actually like regularly employed.
hmm
And I don't think it necessarily matters how long you've been employed, right? Whether it's 6 months or 6 years, I think it's fairly similar. Um, it really hits differently, because you start really worrying about like, so what am I going to do now? and yeah, you build like relationships, you build hopefully good rapport with the people in there, and you made a few friends. And it's for me it was quite tough. I would say like, um, and I read something recently about loss and um, well, like I think losing a job is also a kind of loss. I mean, it's a loss in the sense of like losing maybe a loved one or something like that, something more extreme. But I think when you lose a job, when you lose that stability or like your rhythm, it's also quite something difficult. Um, and I mean, again, with freelance, you kind of pick up and look for the next thing. But then when you come from an in-house job, like there's that period of time I feel like which you need to kind of process that loss, and it's maybe not always a good idea to just like jump on the next thing right away, or jump into the grind of like finding the next job and really like stressing over it like crazy. I mean, of course, there's going to be for some people the necessity to really find the next job ASAP because of maybe they don't have enough savings, or they have a very particular kind of job where it always takes a long time to find a new job or something like that. But I think everybody should allow themselves a little bit of time to just kind of process this kind of news, and maybe even just do nothing, and let those feelings just kind of wash over you, and be a little bit sad. It's fine, right? And then after a while you kind of like pick yourself up again and start afresh, because I mean at the end of the day, I mean the only thing that's really gone is that relationship with your former employer, right? And just because there's not a good fit anymore for the skill set you bring and the needs that the company has. But I mean, your skill set is still there, right? You're still a very capable um, like worker, very capable human being, right? So we should not forget that, and we just have to find a new employer that needs exactly that skill set that we have. And sometimes that can happen very quickly, or sometimes it will just take a little bit longer, right? Um, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think, one of the biggest helps you can have is to, talk to your coworkers.
Yeah, that's very good.
Given that, maybe you all were laid off at the same time or
Yeah.
something, because you guys can all be a little bit of support for each other, but don't ever think that feeling bad mentally is abnormal for this kind of situation.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
absolutely is a loss. And I mean, how long ago was this for you?
Now it's like about I think about 2 months ago. Um, but I think what you just mentioned is very good. Like kind of having like a chat with all your ex-colleagues. Somebody in my studio set it up behind the scenes, and then we were just chatting a little bit. And it's interesting how because everybody is kind of processing that moment very
Mhm.
differently, and then you can really see how different people react, and out of that, like really a lot of like there's a lot of like understanding and support there for each other, where like yeah, they give tips on how to process that, or down to like very like actionable help in terms of like keeping each other up to date with like, oh hey, I heard about this job, hey, what about that, and like, oh, I know and someone in this company, should I kind of put in a good word for you, kind of thing, right? So everything from like a mental support to like really like very actionable kind of like job support has been coming up. And of course, alongside the mental support is not only that you're there for each other and you lend an ear to each other because you kind of understand what everybody's going through at the same time, but also just to kind of shoot the shit and like post some funny things, or just post like the hobbies that we're up to, or like what we've been doing in the holidays with the kids. Just to share that, I think is very kind of comforting, because I mean, it's not the end of the world, right? It's just like life goes on, life has to go on, and that kind
Yes.
of like little community that you have can be very very helpful, alongside of course like the people in our own lives, right? Which are there that hopefully support you as well through this time where you kind of reorient yourself or you're trying to find something new. Yeah.
Well, I mean, for a lot of people, it is a very, very, very drastic and could be sort of feeling like the end of the world, especially now with
Mm,
with the
yeah.
market being the way it is. It's a very scary thing, and there's just not a lot of stability. Because you're coming from this is a long-term job
Yeah. Yeah.
that you're talking about. Uh, I've had many jobs where before I went freelance, it was all long-term jobs, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
always been one layoff with another. A lot of times it was the company just shutting down.
Yeah.
And then it's like, wow, what am I going to do with that? But luckily, we had like I said, we had the team, to fall back on, and also the
Right.
other big thing was that it was always the right thing that happened at that time for me.
Oh,
It
okay.
always
Yeah.
seems like the worst thing. It seems,
Mm,
I remember when my contract ended at ILM, so it wasn't like I got laid off. It was my
mm,
contract ended, but I wanted to stay, and I
yeah.
couldn't, and I felt really bad, because I had grown to really like that place. It was things like that, and in the end, though, it always piggybacked to something better. Um,
Yeah.
and you have to kind of believe that in your
Yeah.
bones to kind of go, okay, something better is going to come. And there's no point looking at the past, right? It's
Yeah.
done, it's over, and it's easier said than done to just, oh, don't look at the past. But I think if you concentrate on, what you can do now, which is, send it out for jobs, work on your own art, whatever it is
Mm,
to keep yourself sane, take some time off, whatever it is, and then maybe hopefully something will come out of that, something even better. Um,
right.
so I think it's
Yeah.
just always good to look at that because throughout my career, I've so many times I've been laid off from Sony to Disney, to the orphanage, to the first place I worked at. They all closed down. Um,
Right.
but I know that every time that I got, laid off, it went to a better place.
Mm,
But I remember at the time of being laid off, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? Now I got to, get my portfolio together and I'm going to start
yeah.
sending
Yeah.
out to people. But I really believe now that it's just a matter of if it's meant to be. You got to
Yeah.
send your stuff out for sure. But it will happen. Things happen, and they will happen always, usually at an upward trajectory. And even if for some people, maybe they do have to pay the bills and they have to take
Mm,
maybe a job that they don't want so much, but maybe in the end that will spark them even more to create different art
right.
or,
Right. Right.
there's a lot of good things that can come out of it.
Right.
And to just keep hopeful
Right.
is the
Yeah, that's
main
a
thing.
good. That's a good point to just really keep up the positivity and
Yeah.
keep up. Yeah, just keeping your mind a bit occupied can help. I mean, also with being laid off, of course, there's a certain amount of like self blame. Like you feel like, oh my gosh, so what could I have done better? Like, is there anything I could have done better to like
Mm.
stay, right? Especially when it's like a round of layoffs and not necessarily a studio closure, right? I think there's a lot where it really damages our confidence,
Mm, mm,
and you feel like, oh my gosh, like why is it me? Like, what did I do wrong? Like, and that's a very natural, I think, response. Sometimes that can help to kind of motivate yourself to work a little bit, not necessarily harder, but maybe uh, kind of reflect upon yourself and hopefully you can get in contact with some people to like ask like, oh, is there anything I could have done, or like is there anything you can recommend me to do next time better or
mm,
something
mm,
like that,
mm,
right?
mm, mm.
That we not necessarily like hate on what happened, right? Sometimes it's really out of our hands. Like there's bigger like financial issues in the company maybe, or like, I don't know, maybe you were too expensive, or maybe your skills are just not that needed at the moment, right? And it would have been, it's like a coin, often it's like a coin toss between a coin toss between like, well, you and somebody else, right? And then, well, this time it hit you and next time it might hit somebody else, right? um, So maybe don't take it too personal, but kind of see it as an opportunity to go inward and think about, okay, what can I do better next time? How can I improve? Is there anything in my art I can do? Is there anything in how I communicate, how I collaborate
Mm-mm-mm.
that I can improve on, right? So just take it as a chance to kind of become a better you as well, without really like taking it too personal. I think that can be
Yeah.
helpful.
Oh, yeah. I mean, totally. I think that's a really good point because, sometimes you have to, step back and look at what, you did. And there are certainly jobs where um, let's see, have I been laid off? I mean, there's been a lot of layoffs, but usually it's because of the company closing. So not so
Right, right,
many
right,
where
right.
like I really messed up. But I think there were times when um, hmm, I don't think I ever got that bad. But I think for me it was mainly a personality thing, right?
Ah,
Back
okay,
then when
yeah.
I was young, it was a lot of very abrasive personality to the point where maybe they were considering it, but I never really got laid off because of that. And I will say that, a lot of times you aren't really kept for the a quality of your art. Usually it's never to do with that. It's never
Hmm.
to do with whether you're good or whether your art was not good enough. It usually is either a money thing with the studio, like we just can't afford having you, or we can't have anybody,
Mm,
or it's because personality issues, right?
right.
So they find it hard to work with you, and that's the part where if that is the case, and this is a hard pill to swallow, totally understand, but that's the part where you really need to look at because it's never your work isn't good enough. It's very, very rarely like
Mm-hmm,
your work is
mm,
not good enough because as long
right.
as the work is good enough to sort of pass the grade, I mean, you don't have to be the best artist in the earth. You just have to be good enough for that role, right? So usually what I've heard of usually is personality. And when I was supervising, that was that was the big thing. It was like if
Mm-hmm,
you're hard
mm-hmm,
to work with, I don't care how good you are, just can't deal with it. So
right.
self-reflection is definitely, like you said, great to do.
Mm,
Asking the people who were your supervisors or stuff, great. But in the end, don't take it too hard and just stay positive and look to grow. You can always grow, and that's your own choice. So if
right.
you grow, then you're going to be a better person, better artist, and guaranteed that job will come. It may take a little time, but it will
Yeah,
come.
yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Thank you again for listening and watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe.